Welcome to this explainer, where today we're looking at one of the absolute most recognizable structures on the planet. But hey, I want you to completely clear your mind of the postcards, the tourist photos, all of that. We're going to frame the Taj Mahal not just as a beautiful tomb, but as a multi-layered mystery that's just waiting to be unraveled. There is so much more beneath the surface of this 17th century marvel, from complex, mind-bending mathematics to hidden, shadowy histories.
Okay, let's dive into this. We all know the famous story, right? Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan builds this breathtaking mausoleum for his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal. It's the ultimate monument to love. But when we look past the romance, what is the Taj Mahal really made of? As we start peeling back the layers, we're going to shift our perspective from surface-level beauty to some incredibly deep underlying structural truths.
So, decoding the geometric masterpiece. First up, we're zooming in on the intense mathematical and geometric obsession of the Mughal architects. They weren't just building a tomb here, they were literally constructing a physical manifestation of perfect order.
Get a load of this, 13.75 meters. Recent studies using advanced computational tools actually measured the curvature radius of the main dome. And the result? Exactly 13.75 meters, revealing a near-perfect spherical geometry. I mean, this is classical geometric precision scaled up to absolutely monumental proportions.
And it doesn't stop at the dome. 0.15 degrees. That's the average angular deviation of the four minarets surrounding the main structure. They are aligned to the cardinal directions with an astonishing error margin of merely 0.15 degrees. The meticulous, symmetrical precision required to pull this off back in the 1600s is absolutely staggering.
Then we have 1.618, the golden ratio. This exact mathematical proportion dictates the relationship between the length of the monument's reflecting pool and the width of the main structure. The Mughal architects deliberately encoded this universal standard of aesthetic beauty directly into the footprint of the complex. No accidents here.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how far ahead of their time these builders were. By running the original blueprints through modern Rhino 3D computational simulations, researchers have completely validated that these measurements aren't just flukes. This 17th century masterpiece reflects robust engineering principles that actually surpass a lot of conventional engineering norms we use today.
All right, reading the marble walls, let's transition our narrative to our second layer, zooming in even closer, from the macro architecture down to the micro aesthetic and spiritual messaging embedded right there in the stone.
When you look really closely at the lower walls and archway spandrels, you see these incredibly intricate botanical decorations. And no, this isn't painted on. This is Parshin Kari. It's this highly skilled lapidary art where craftsmen took semi-precious stones, we're talking yellow marble, jasper, and jade, polished them perfectly flat, and inlaid them directly into the white marble. Interestingly enough, this technique was actually adapted and refined from Italian craftsmen who were employed at the Mughal court.
Now, woven throughout this incredible stonework is the Thuluth script. This florid calligraphy was mastered by the Persian calligrapher Amanat Khan. He used black marble, inlaid into the white marble, to wrap the building in passages from the Quran. But here is the absolute genius part. Amanat Khan used optical illusions. He intentionally created the higher panels with larger text. Why? So that when you're standing on the ground looking up, the skewing effect is reduced and the text appears perfectly uniform in size. It's like a giant visual trick.
So the crucial point is what these words actually say. Amanat Khan didn't just design the script. Historians suggest he actually chose the texts. Carved into the great gate, it reads, "O soul, thou art at rest. Return to the Lord, at peace with him, and he at peace with you." This specific quote totally shifts the tone of the entire complex. Instead of just a memorial to a wife, the inscriptions focus heavily on impending judgment and paradisiacal rewards for the faithful. It's essentially inviting the righteous to enter paradise.
Now, with so much deliberate perfection going on, any irregularity really stands out. And that brings us to a fascinating step sideways, from iconography and architecture right into folklore. Because Shah Jahan's own cenotaph is placed irregularly. It's offset from the center, right next to his wife's perfectly centered tomb. It sparked a massive historical rumor. Did he actually plan a second, blackened tomb for himself?
This brings us to the famous legend of the Black Taj. The story goes that Shah Jahan intended to build a literal mirror image of the Taj Mahal directly across the Yamuna River, but entirely out of black marble. The two monuments were going to be connected by a bridge. This dark twin was meant to be his own resting place, but the legend claims he was overthrown by his son, Aurangzeb,
before it could ever even be built. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive contradiction we find when we trace the myth. The whole idea actually started with the fanciful 1665 writings of a French traveler named Jean-Baptiste Tavernier. He claimed a black tomb was already started, but hard, modern archaeological evidence tells a completely different story. In the 1990s, excavations across the river in the Moonlight Garden did find blackened stones. However, testing revealed they were not black marble at all. Actually, scratch that, they weren't even close. They were simply white stones that had severely discolored over the centuries.
So where did the whole visual of a black Taj even come from? Well, in 2006, archaeologists reconstructed a part of the pool in that garden across the river. When they filled it with water, they saw a crisp, dark reflection of the white mausoleum right there in the water. Given the absolute Mughal obsession with perfect symmetry, it's highly likely that this black Taj was never going to be a physical building, but rather an intentional, symmetrical reflection designed to completely balance the space.
This clash between wild European rumors and hard physical archaeology raises a really fascinating point. How do we actually know the true history of this era? Pulling the camera all the way back, the answer actually lies in a massive paper empire. The Mughals meticulously documented their world through extensive administrative records and court chronicles.
Let's move to and see how this builds across generations. The Mughals sponsored this incredibly ambitious historiographical project, mostly written in the Persian language. It kicks off with the founder, Babur, writing his own memoirs way back in 1526. By the 1590s, the empire is actively summoning surviving eyewitnesses to retrospectively document previous reigns. This whole endeavor peaks in 1596 with the Akbarnama, the official history of Emperor Akbar, and it continues seamlessly right into the 1600s with the Chronicles of Jahangir.
The sheer rigor of this documentation is honestly astounding, particularly with the Akbarnama. The official historian, a guy named Abul Fazl, didn't just write down what he heard. He gathered testimonies from veteran officials and would sometimes cross-reference up to 20 different witnesses for a single event. He pulled original commands directly from the State Records Office, and if there were ever contradictions, he went straight to Emperor Akbar himself to verify the exact details.
Just to wrap your head around the overwhelming volume of data they collected, consider how the Akbarnama is structured. The first two sections, or Defartars, are a chronological history of the reign and the emperor's genealogy. But the third section, the Ain-e-Akbari, is basically a massive imperial gazetteer. It meticulously documents the administrative statistics, the geography of the provinces, army regulations, and even the specific social customs of the Hindu population. They literally documented absolutely everything.
But remember, these are official histories. The Akbarnama was highly controlled PR, painting Akbar as a flawless, divinely inspired ruler. However, just like the rumors of the Black Taj, there was a hidden shadow narrative. A rival historian named Badawi secretly wrote the Muntakab al-Tawarikh. This hidden text offered a starkly critical counter-narrative. It pushed back hard against the royal absolutism and painted a much, much less sympathetic picture of the emperor. Basically, it was the history the state definitely didn't want you to see.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought. We've seen how the Mughal Empire engineered their physical monuments down to a fraction of a degree, and we've seen how tightly they control the narrative of their own history upon the page. If they curated their legacy as perfectly as they shaped their marble, what other myths, truths, and dark reflections still remain hidden in the ruins, just waiting for us to peel back the next layer? Keep questioning the narratives, and we'll see you on the next explainer.